Hello, hello, hello. And we're now on to the sixth studio album by Blur, which was called 13. Think it'd be called 6? No, it's 13 because 13 tracks. So this kind of is like the end game for Blur. Well, for me anyway. This isn't going to be a very long video, not like the other ones where I took great joy in analysing the songs. Um, for me, this is a band. This is the sound of a band fragmenting and breaking up. For not only as we got Graham Coxon succumbing to his various issues, we've also got Damon Albarn breaking up with Justin Frischman and eyeing up the Gorillaz project. So you get the feeling the band's kind of pulling in all sorts of directions and not really interested in the job at hand. And this album, for me, comes across as a bit of an unfocused mess. And yeah, that's it. Because a lot of the lyricism and the melody that you saw and the cleverness that you saw in previous albums is now gone. It's swept away to something, well, quite, stupid, really. I've said it. I find the album rather stupid. It was released back in the 15th of March 1999. It's 66 minutes, 50 seconds long. That's all you need to know, really. Backing up more evidence that, when a band puts out an album this long, it's because they've run out of ideas. And musically, they've gone further away from Britpop or traditional rock pop and more towards like art rock and experimental rock. But it's not the good experimental stuff. It's the rubbish. It truly is rubbish. And I think it kind of highlights their lack of musicianship. I don't think, I think they're good at doing, very carefully crafted, pop songs with, smart lyrics. And here, it's almost like they've deconstructed themselves to the point where it's become utterly meaningless. That's not to say there isn't some good stuff on there. There are some good songs on it. But it's, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Starts off with Tender, which is, I think isn't it the longest track they ever recorded? 7 minutes 41. Oh no, it'll be Essex Dogs. Essex Dogs beats it, but it's Tender. It just feels like it's a long track. 7 minutes 41. It's an unusual thing. Again, a lot of this is through the eyes of Damon Albarn getting through his breakup with Justin Frischman of Elastica. And they'd been together quite a while at this point. And it's unusual because it starts off kind of, garagey and lo-fi, and it opens up, and as it goes on, it becomes this quite marvellous gospel song. You have the singers backing them up. And it's it's kind of organic, and it's not bad. I don't mind it. It's quite a good live one when I've seen them do it live. It's a pretty good thing, and you think for an album, it's going to be good. This album could be a new level of sophistication and maturity. You think, and they follow it up with Budman, which is about Damon Albarn's drug dealer, and it's fizzy and nasty and facile. But thankfully, Coffee and TV comes along. It's a Graham Coxon tune. Again, it's almost like a follow-up to a track from from the previous album. Coffee and TV. It's sung by Coxon as well. And again, it's about his, alcoholism and want to get away from, who he is. And it's great. And it's got the pulsing bass line running through it. It's just great. And when it comes to Coxon's guitar solo, which is probably one of the best guitar solos he's ever done, which is completely deconstructed and noise based, it's very good. And of course, backed up by a fantastic music video as well. It's a highlight. It really is. And then after that, there's not a lot left for me. Again, some of these are appalling. Blurry MI is, again, it's a comment on the pop music of the time, and how it's looped and repetitious. They're having a poke at their own record label. Again, kind of reminds me of EMI by the Pistols, Unlimited Supply, but not as clever and not as good, and it's a bit snarky considering Blur are a pop band. It seems kind of taken the high ground, really. Again, I think with this record they are kind of biting off more than they can chew. They're trying to push for this air of sophistication and maturity that doesn't actually exist, and this happens with a lot of the material on this. It doesn't speak to me at all, and is entirely forgettable. And again, when I got the album, I remember getting it the day of release and being utterly disappointed by it. Very rare to be utterly disappointed by an album. And you didn't listen to it enough. I've tried. But again, musically, it's just not. I just don't find it fun. I don't find it that interesting. It ends with No Distance Left to Run, which again is about the breakup of Albarn's relationship. And that's good. And like I said, there's 3 tracks on this that I really like, and the rest do not care for at all. But No Distance Left to Run is a real tortured song, about the end of a relationship, and you can feel it. And again, with the lyrics and his performance, and if you see him do it live, I think they did it on Jules Holland back in the day, and it's a real, everything's taken out of him. It's a real good one. But the rest of it, again, the problem is compared to Tender, Coffee and TV, and No Distance Left to Run, the rest of the material on the record just doesn't hold up. It comes across as half-baked. And when you hear about, again, at the time, I didn't know what was going on in the studio. The band weren't getting on. Graham Coxon was, not turning up. And they had a different producer, had William Orbit producing. And at that point, Orbit had come off of doing Ray of Light from Madonna, and he was the producer of Great Demand. But even he couldn't roll this turd in glitter and make it decent. It's, I remember reading reviews saying what a wonderful album it was, and I don't get it. It happens sometimes. When you follow a band and you just go, nope, don't get this. And for me, this is the beginning of the end of my relationship with Blur. This is it, and it doesn't get any better with the next album. But it ends with Optigan 1, which is named after an instrument that was kind of the follow-up to the Mellotron. Mellotron was a keyboard instrument that uses tape loops. Well, the Optigan used optical disc media to do very much similar to what the Mellotron did, and it's a big thing. And you had replaceable discs that you could put in, and it used to read the discs, and that's why it's called Optigan 1, because they've just played some presets on the Optigan and noodled over that. It's a fun ending. But yeah, I find the whole record rather uninspiring, unfocused. It's not even produced, Again, William Orbit must have just been sitting there counting the paycheck. And overlong, 66 minutes of, You know what I'm like, though. If you follow any of these videos, you know what a sad and predictable individual I am when I say 66 minutes is too long for a record. And yeah, compare it to the previous one. I think they're allowed to just get a little bit too self-indulgent. I don't think their producer... I think they'd been better off having Stephen Street back as the producer, because I think he might have reined their more indulgent impulses in. and steered the ship away from the rocks. But this, awful, bad album. It's a bad one. And I know you're going to disagree with me, and I know you're going to thumbs down the video, and I know we've been all that way before. I get it, but some albums you like, and some albums you don't. And this one, I don't have a lot of time for. And again, whilst I think they are a clever unit, this is the opposite of what Blur is. And it doesn't get any better after this. 13, in this case, definitely unlucky for some, and an album that really caused me to question whether I like Blur or not. This was the one. And it's a great shame. So yeah, that was it. I've been talking about 13, which isn't the 13th album from Blur. It's the 6th album from Blur, which was originally released on the 15th of March 1999. I think it did quite well, didn't it? Did it got to number 1 in the UK, and had 3 singles: Tender, Coffee and TV, and No Distance Left to Run. Funny that the 3 best tracks ended up being released as singles, and that's funny. But yeah, not an album that I could love. I still again listen to it for this. It was hard work. It's hard. I find it very hard to get through. And you wonder if it's the same band. I think sometimes you can deconstruct yourself too far, and it's almost on a parallel with what Radiohead were going on to do, because Radiohead had OK Computer in '97, Blur had Blur out in '97, and Blur delivered this, where they again tried to completely pull apart what they do, and Radiohead did that with Kid A, but that was in 2000, the following year of this. And they were successful. These guys, I don't think it was. That's just my opinion. Again, your mileage may vary. You may agree, you may disagree, and that's fine. We're allowed to do that. But you've got to understand, I was there, I bought it, and I was very disappointed by it. I think I'm still sore. Anyway, thanks for watching. We have the next one. The next one is next. Think Tank. It's not going to be good either, is it? No. Anyway, thank you for watching. There's only one more thing left to say by now. You know what that is, and that is ta-da.